Good morning, everyone. It's Richard Graves of Richard Graves Group. How you guys doing today? Me and Mr. Jonathan, our newest member of the Richard Graves Group. Mr. Jonathan Golden is a new associate director and contributor to our group. He brings some good insights and fresh insights, and we have great conversation about the things that are going on in the world. Today, we're going to talk about a little situation. This is something that just came up. I was having a discussion on Twitter, and it would seem like a normal discussion at first. And what we were talking about was, the 94 crime bill. And, and a lot of the African Americans on this particular discussion were saying that the Democrats need to apologize or be forgiven for this crime bill. And don't get me wrong, we understand that there was a public policy aspect of it that increased the prison population. And neither I nor Mr. Golden would deny that there are systemic and institutional issues that do contribute to a lot of the things going on in some of the Black urban and economically depressed communities across the country. However, I said, that's great. And I said, well, unless Bill Clinton or Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton or Obama, whoever was helping these brothers with these drive-bys and home invasions, still on you what you choose to do. To which conversation went left. But me and Jonathan are going to talk about that a little bit. So without further delay, let me bring aboard my brother, Jonathan. Jonathan, what's up, brother?
What's up, Rich? God bless everybody out there.
God bless you too, bro. I know you and I, we have discussed this particular topic, both online and offline. Mm-hmm. Offline, we discuss it a little bit more frankly.
Frank.
But we're gonna keep it at Her Majesty's. So
yeah.
You saw the post that I posted on the Facebook page, and the brother I was talking to and what he was talking about. So let me give you a little bit more context of the conversation. It was a conversation that was started in one of those ADOS groups, Americans Descendants of Slavery groups. And I didn't realize, at first I thought I was just talking to those people. And even though we disagree on the subject of reparations, we do agree that, we're trying to do things that betters the conditions and lives of African Americans in this country. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what we had in that particular group was what you and I call affectionately the Hotepery.
The Hotepery.
The Hotepery. So for those of y'all out there who don't know, me and Jonathan will do a show, a theological show, and a social political show on the Hotepery, because there's two sides to this that has to be discussed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the theology, I know Jonathan's waiting to get on their theology.
Oh, yeah.
So the Hotepery was on. Brothers, with they even X and all the Hebrew names and Egyptian names and other names that they take. In any case, I said we when I was talking about we as Black men need to make better choices. And it threw me off because they responded, who is we? I said, we being Black men. Well, see, I'm not responsible for what other brothers do. I said, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not responsible for what they do either. And then a liberal white person on this same thread said that I was being racist because I said we. So I had to explain. So my picture isn't on my little play there on Twitter. So I had to explain. I said, first of all, I've been African American longer than probably everybody that was on that page, Lex for youngsters, and definitely the white person. I said, it's not racist for me. The question is, am I my brother's keeper? And the question is, the answer to that is yes. So I believe we as Black men should hold each other accountable for what we choose to do. So, and I explained to him, I said, no, it's about accountability. I mean, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. I can give you all the tools to do a crime. That doesn't mean you have to do it. Mm-hmm. So then the brothers, the Hoteps, started talking about, well, you're letting the government off the hook. And it's the systems and institutions that cause these things. And the FBI, they infiltrated the gangs in Chicago, the Gangster Disciples and the Stones and the Vice Lords and stuff like that. And I'm like, bro, I'll give it to you. COINTELPRO happened. We know that there was infiltration in those groups and the Black Panthers, that there were monkey wrenches thrown in that. But after that, we know that. All of us know that. It's pretty much common knowledge. The question is, what are you going to do? All right, because you can't go back in time and change what happened. You only got this moment going forward. So ultimately, let's say that you can't vote, you're a felon or whatever. Let's say that you are disenfranchised from the system. What you still own is your choices. And I don't think people wanted to hear that. They went through every excuse about me putting onus on us as Black men making better choices to be leaders, fathers, to be protectors in our community. They went through it. Now I realize there was an intersectionality happening here. The intersectionality is feminism on the left, the anti-racism dynamic on the left, and then of course the Hotepery. In my opinion, and I'm going to say this, I hope not to offend anybody, but many of the religious ideas in the Hotepery are rooted in a type of what I would call, I don't know, I wish I could say what I want to say, but rooted in a bit of a where men get an out to not be responsible. And it's like a warped feminism where the women feel as if they got to protect the men, and it's crazy. I'm gonna have to nail it down, and we'll have to write about it. But I think overall, what I'm saying is it allows for an out. All these different philosophies that intersect with Blackness on the left allow for an out for Black men not to stand up and own their choices. It's the government's fault. It's the systems and institutions' fault. It's the white man's fault. It's, the white people have made this system that goes against, and the liberals push that agenda as well. White liberals push that agenda. And I think they do it in order to keep Black people, beholden to them. And before anybody starts texting me, I'm not giving racism on the conservative side any type of pass. Anybody who has seen me I write about white nationalism. I've written about a lot of things that are going on the right as well. But today we're going to talk about the left a bit and how they arrest the development of Black people by giving us excuses for us not to own our own mistakes. But go ahead, brother.
No, I was going to say, just to add to that point, see, unfortunately, we have been 90% beholden to the left. So anytime we talk about Black issues, it's going to be directed at the left because that's what we think is the best. So you almost always are going to relate Black issues with leftism because we've gotten bed with that side of the political or even social economic thought. When we talk about the Hotepery, we have this movement where we have a little bit more education. Sometimes a little more education can be very dangerous. A little bit more education, a little bit more understanding. We have become romanticized and become prolific prognosticators of our condition and who did what and why it happened and where we're going to go from there. But where we're going to go from that when we know government has done their things and done that. So then what's the solution? Are we looking to government to clean up their own mess? Or are we going to do something? You got the liberal side. It's amazing that the liberal side, even to the fact of politics, is part of the government that we say that did all these things to us, but we're going to lean to that side too, as if they're not a part of what happened too. So I just don't, I never get that.
And let me interject real quick, brother. I always say because I've accused the left and the Democrats of having racism within their party as well. Do I think most Democrats are racist? No. Do I think most Republicans are racist? No. But there is racism within the Republican Party, Democratic Party, on the left and on the right. But whenever I point to the left and I say there's racism there, because they'll say, why are you a Republican? I said, what difference does it make? If you're a Democrat, you're still part of the same systems and institutions that you say are systemically and institutionally racist. So how can you believe in one breath that there is such a thing as systemic and institutional racism, anti-Black racism specifically, and not believe that within one of those primary systems, which is the political system, that the institutions that comprise it, two of those institutions being the Democratic and Republican Party, how can you possibly believe it's only the Republican Party that's institutionally has some institutional racism, not the Democrats? They're our friends, you know? And that, to me, that cognitive dissonance is problematic. But this is why we end up having these goofy discussions, because ultimately our people tend to not want to recognize what is racist about the left, you know? And honestly, what I see in the left, and don't get me wrong, I voted for Biden and Kamala Harris because I believed, and one of the lesser of two evil things is just that I believe that Trump was dysfunctional. I believe that he was destructive to our country within geopolitical policy and within internal policy. And that was it. That's all. I at least believe Biden would be an adult. Okay. That being said, though, make no mistake, I don't trust the left any more than I trust the extremists on the right, you know, in regard to doing what's best for Black people. I always tell Black people that we need to vote for people based on what they gonna do and what we hold them accountable for, not for what party they are. Because I don't vote straight Republican. If a Republican candidate doesn't look like he's gonna be best for me as a working class African-American male, I'm not voting for you, you know? So, or a Democrat, same thing. It could be a libertarian, whatever. I need to know what policy objectives do you have that benefit me, my community, my family. That's what I need to know.
Yeah.
You know, but we give the Democrats a pass because of the civil rights movement. They're still riding on their laurels for that, and they still haven't done anything more than ride on those laurels. I mean, let's be real. We've had all this supposed take the issue of the police issues between the police and the African American community. This has gone on since Trayvon Martin, who again was not killed by a police officer, but we know that a lot of this hands up, don't shoot, I can't breathe, Black Lives Matter, all this type of stuff happens at this point. It's a jump off point. That's a different discussion though. But out of every protest that has happened, out of everything that's gone on, what true actionable public policy have we gotten that has had a net positive on our community? Now, I know there's some stuff in the political spirit they're pushing, things like a cashless bail system, demilitarizing the police, et cetera, et cetera. All those things sound well and good, and maybe they may end up with some good outcomes, but it still doesn't address the underlying problem between law enforcement and the African American community, which is easily addressed if law enforcement and the African American community engaged each other, if they worked on hiring practices to get a more, not just diverse group of people working, but to get people who actually want to serve and protect the community. They require police officers to be part of a community, spend time in their community, know the community. Right. Instead, we get silly things like, well, let's teach critical race theory at the academy. Like if you hire the Grand Wizard of the Klan, if you hire him for the police, that 3-day course and
it's going to change his mind.
It's going to make him, oh, I see the light. I no longer am going to be a racist, if that's the objective, you know. But if the objective is to get people to know who they're policing, then, like I said, I believe the biggest thing would be requiring police officers, if not to live in the community, to at least be part of it, to spend time in the community outside of uniform, visiting the high schools, visiting the businesses, getting to know the people, the children of the neighborhood, in order to be better, more effective at your job in law enforcement.
Yeah, but let me add to that though. So, you know, I live in the Metro Detroit area. Detroit is Black city. I live in a suburb, Southfield. Detroit, Southfield is 70% Black. You got to ask yourself these questions. You don't hear about police brutality like that or police shooting people here in Detroit like that. Why? The police look like us.
That's a good point that
you so you got to ask yourself these questions. When we get so emotionally charged with these things, when we see somebody's dying by the hands of police, that's a problem. ain't no ifs, ands, buts about it. I think in every woe, the African American community is it seems to be on percentage. You correct me. All our woes are at a higher percentage when anything. But that's more of a socio-economic thing.
Absolutely.
More than necessarily a race. Of course, there's racism and all of that, not just that. But one thing we have to look at is I want to know this. How many people have have actually looked up the statistics on police brutality and police shootings? Forget about what you've been told. Have you actually looked them up and looked and parsed out the statistics and demographics on what that looks like? And then after you do that, you come and look at the data versus what you've been told emotionally to believe. Maybe the gap ain't as far as you think it is. Maybe police brutality is a problem across the board. Maybe it's bigger than that. I'm just saying. Because I looked at them and I was astonished.
Or maybe it isn't the problem that is being presented to be in the first place.
Exactly.
All right. Because, and let me be clear. Yes, there is an issue between law enforcement and the African American community. It's historical. All right. It goes back a long way. It goes back to when the U.S. Marshals used to have to capture slaves.
Right.
It goes back to slave patrols in the South. It goes back to how when the metropolitan areas went away from the posse comitatus style, the slave patrols, and you had the models of the British, or I should say the London Metropolitan Police in places like Baltimore, Chicago, Philly, New York, how they started embracing some of the racist ideas coming from the slave patrols as law enforcement, eventually evolved. And then, how law enforcement is utilized against labor, during the Gilded Age. So there's a lot to unpack there. And there's a lot that needs to be dealt with. I mean, the reality of the situation, the real problem, not the problem that we want to say is that the police is hunting us like the police out hunting black people today. That's not the problem. The problem is what I just said. That's the problem, that history, that law enforcement was used to enforce black codes, Jim Crow laws, segregation in cities like Chicago, in the North. We're not talking about Mississippi or Birmingham, Alabama. We're talking about Chicago, where the Chicago police were utilized to enforce segregation, to make sure black folks stayed in their part of the city. So these are the historical things we need to deal with. Now, this is not to dismiss officers who've done misconduct, who've used excessive force, who've used deadly force wrong. However, people want to present it as an existential threat. And that is in order to manipulate emotionalism, in order to get us all riled up so people can push agendas that aren't really ours.
Right.
Demilitarizing the police, that is not an African-American agenda. Because real talk, the brothers who are getting into law enforcement, they're not meeting some stormtrooper in tactical gear.
Right.
That pulling them over. So don't come to me about demilitarizing police, because that's not the particular issue we're talking about in the hood. In the hood, we know what happens. Brothers get pulled over by 5-0. 5-0 might just be pulling over random black men, and then a conflict can happen and it can go south. Those are the type of things we need to think about. But in regard to, this existential threat, you can't say, especially you living in Chicago, I can't say that it's an existential threat that the police are hunting down black men when I got 40 to 50 shootings a week. All right. And I got 40 to 50 shootings a week. All right. We're packing our prisons with black men, BD, GD, foes, stones, whatever, all bragging about how many bodies they have. King Von, who was recently killed, BD, he was bragging about how many bodies he had. He got killed by another black man. All right. So, and then I hear these fantasies, where people are talking about, well, it's really the police shooting all these black people. They're getting in black masks. And I'm like, look, man, is that a possibility? Yeah, it's possible,
Yeah.
But, when I got, social media guys putting up videos talking about how many of the ops they done killed, how they did they got a documentary about this young black girl who I think she was GD, how many BDs she had killed, how many of her enemies she killed until she got killed, but you want to talk to me about the boogeyman of the law enforcement getting together in the middle of the night, putting on black masks, going around shooting black people to make it look like the numbers are higher. Come on, man.
Hey, I want to say something else too. I have a friend of mine who was in law enforcement here in the city of Detroit. He's a Latino brother, speaks Spanish. And he said something to me that I was like, that makes sense. Statistically, as I understand, drug use drug paraphernalia, whatever you want to call it, is high, just as high in white communities as in the black communities. Same, we use drugs, same level, same rate, nothing different. But what he said to me was this. He said the reason we get caught, we get incarcerated, because we out on the corner at the gas station. I'm talking about here in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Doing it there, or trying to sell it right in the open. Whereas in other white communities, they're not out in the open doing it. So if I'm out in the open doing it, and I'm openly selling it on the corners, gas stations here, and other places, I'm gonna get popped.
True.
So it goes back to originally what you were saying. It's the level of accountability. You don't have to worry about 3 strikes if you ain't up at the plate trying to strike out. No, it goes back to originally what you were
right.
And so we don't like talking about that side. We throw this, where you're judging. You'd rather for me judge you now than you get your 3rd strike. I mean, which one you want? You want me to judge you, say you're doing wrong? You want that 3rd strike and be locked up and then complain about the system? Kanye West said something. I'm about to quote Kanye West. Oh my God. Kanye said, we want to talk about criminal justice reform, but in the music, all we doing is talking about doing criminality. Well, wait a minute. What? Huh?
Well,
what are you talking about? You glorifying criminality, but we want criminal justice reform?
Right. And let's be real. We talked about this a bit last week in regard to hip hop. Like I said, you see all the gray hair. So like I just told you, when hip hop first came out, I remember when it first came out. But we talked about the fact that the whole idea of being a gangster and having a record, having bodies, meaning you don't kill people, is a good thing for marketing you in hip hop. The music is overwhelmingly pushing drug culture, is pushing a violent gang culture, and is glorifying all that. Now I'll take our generation's weight on setting that up, back in the early 90s with, late 80s, early 90s with NWA, but for a while there, you had NWA and you had Public Enemy. Okay. You had Rakim. And then you had the fun stuff like with Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince and De La, the more conscious stuff that De La did. All right. Abstract. But around 91, 92, and particularly 92, when Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre's album come out, Ice Cube's album had come out for Death Certificate. And what you had was a push from the industry to push gangster music and subdue all the other subgenres of hip hop. So we got to take the weight for glorifying gangsterism with all of the stuff that was coming from out west. Everybody who was rapping was a Crip or a Blood, and we glorified the stuff that was happening in those neighborhoods because we could relate to it in our neighborhoods, in Chicago or Dallas or Milwaukee or Detroit, anywhere. But it just kept getting worse. Because remember, when Ice Cube first started telling stories of the hood, he would basically, this is what's happening in the hood, but it's not good. Right? It's not good. If you listen to his song from the Death Certificate album, he made a song called Summer Vacation. All right. In the song Summer Vacation, it explains how Bloods and Crips came to St. Louis from Los Angeles and started selling crack there. When they get there, it talks about the fact they deal with the local people in the hood, take over the hood, and get these dudes in the hood starting to act like that they from places they ain't never heard of. It's like what Q said, dying for a street that they ain't never heard of. Crenshaw Mafia dudes, Rolling 60s dude, 8-Tray gangster dudes from South Central. And now you got these gangs in St. Louis, and these guys ain't never seen South Central Los Angeles, but now they're dying for it. And it tells the story how it ends up bad, how he ends up in jail at the end, and the people end up dead. That was Ice Cube being a person telling a story about this is the hood and this is not good. This is how we got here. Whereas a switch flipped, and then all of a sudden it's like, this is the hood and it's great. This is what you should aspire for, to be a G. Even though these dudes are now living in the suburbs of LA, they ain't nowhere near Long Beach or East Side Long Beach or or South Central Los Angeles. They ain't around there no more, but they telling you and your kids that, hey, this is good though. You need to be a gangster. And it just progressively got worse to what we got now. You got the drill music in Chicago. That trap music came from Atlanta, and it's all pushing a drug culture and a gangster culture. So you're right. In one mouth, we want criminal justice reform, but we allow our children to be flooded with imagery and music and that glorifies gangsterism, and not just glorifies it, but now you had rap music used to be way out for guys. Guys out, I'm gonna be a rapper, I'm gonna get out the hood, I'm gonna do better, make money, start a label. But now they're taking the hood with them, meaning that you still talking about I'm this, I'm that, I'm this mob, I'm that mob, I'm from this block, I'm from that block. I killed this many ops, I killed that many ops. You got dudes posting YouTube videos of them peeing on the grave of their ops, and then getting shot up the next day. I mean, how many of these rappers got shot up? But then I got black folk trying to tell me about the police is dressing up, shooting black folk. Maybe they are. We're making it pretty easy for them to blend in. That's again, it goes back to our owners. I can't control if the police are actually doing that. I don't believe they are, but if they are, hopefully we find it out. But we can't find it out because they got too much to camouflage.
Right.
50 shootings in the weekend, and everybody yelling they mob as they shooting at each other. So it comes again back to our owners. What are we going to own? We can define the problem. We can make up a problem. We can fictionalize a problem. But until we actually address the only part that we control in this situation is what we ourselves do and holding each other accountable as black men, I don't see a problem. And it's sad that I had a bunch of liberals actually coming at me because I'm saying we need to hold our brothers accountable. To quote the famous New Jack City, am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. We should be, if we're supposed to be this black people group that we all, black together, But it is funny that the left in all of its wokeness pushes an idea that it's all the systems and institutions. It's not your fault. The systems and institutions can put you in a position. What you choose to do is all on you. And I know everybody's not a Christian, but in the Bible, God told Moses, he told him, tell Israel, I put two paths before you, life and death. And then God even gave you a hint. He said, choose life.
Choose life.
All right. So every man, all right, every human being, male or female, but I'm talking to the brothers, has to, at some point, say, hey, man, which way am I going to go?
Right.
And sometimes it's a lot easier to go the other way to go the path of death. It's a lot easier because it's always easier to destroy something than to build something.
Right.
If we go to build a house today, me and you as two black men, so we're going to build a house, it's going to take us a minute. Even if we had all the money to get all the equipment, if we tried to build that house, it's going to take a minute. Even if we hire some people, it's going to take a minute. But if we want to destroy one, we could do it in seconds.
Yep.
We could do it in minutes. You and I can go burn a house down right now.
Yep.
It'll take literally minutes for it to be destroyed. So it's always easier to destroy than to build. It's always easier to follow path of death than life.
Yeah.
So,
It's always tough though. And I understand people in conditions, and I'm learning to have a little bit more compassion for certain things. Also, but at the end of the day, I say to myself, when I walk out the house, I think sometimes when I walk out the house, what is my greatest fear? And unfortunately for the Hotepery, it's not the police.
Are you sure?
Huh?
Are you sure?
Oh, I'm positive it's not the police. Because when I cross 8 Mile is the divide between the suburbs and Detroit. So when I say cross 8 Mile, I'm talking about crossover to Detroit, to the hood. Well, parts that are the hood, I should say, because not all of Detroit is the hood. When I cross over 8 Mile and I go to the gas station at night, I ain't thinking about the police. I'm not thinking about Donald Trump. I'm not thinking about white hoods. I'm not thinking about somebody being racist toward me. I'm thinking about getting my head blown off or being carjacked by somebody that looks like me. My wife drives 8 Mile. She works and she has to drive 8 Mile to come home. I said, don't carry your ass south 8 Mile to get no gas if you got to. You stay on the north side.
Wow.
Not because of the police, not because of Donald Trump, not because of the Republicans or some people in White Hood. It's because of your cousins, Rich. That's why. So we don't want to be honest with that. We don't want to say, hey, you know what? When I walk out my house, for me, it ain't the police. It's not. And what did the statistics say? An 80 to 90% chance of me dying via violence is from whom? It's not the police. It's somebody that looks just like me.
Let me make this clear because I know we're gonna get some pushback. So
I don't care. So when you walk out your house and you in the hood, South side Chicago, east side of Detroit, red zone, by the city airport. Damn it ain't white folks. Prove me wrong. Don't give me emotion. Prove me wrong. Somebody that look just like you.
I concur.
Now deal with that.
But let me say this, just to throw this caveat out there. There are people
I don't care who don't like
it. There are people going to say
it's the truth. And you can't prove me wrong.
Oh, it's the truth. I'm not debating that. But I want to contextualize it a bit.
Put some context on it,
because
I'm going to get fired up in here.
There are some of us who will get offended that you're saying that. I'm not going to get offended. But there are some of us who will say that you're trying to distract with black on black crime. No, that's not what the brother's doing. The reality of the situation is crime is mostly between people of the same ethnic group, all right, and the same social, political, or social economic situation. So, but he is describing a truth. You have people trying to tell us that we need to be running around like Chicken Little claiming the sky is falling because the police might kill us. And don't get me wrong, we know there's a reality in black men having to deal with law enforcement a certain way. We know that's true. We know we have to tell our sons to act a certain way when getting pulled over so that they don't get hurt. We get that because there is a thing called implicit racial bias that causes people to view us as a threat, even if we're not. We get that. So let me be clear. We're not saying that don't exist. But the reality of what he is talking about and what I'm saying, I also tell my sons, don't take their butts to the west side of Chicago. Don't cross Austin from Oak Park into the hood.
Exactly.
Just don't. Because
along with the police conversation, we have conversations.
We got to have those two conversations.
Right.
And see, what our people don't like, a lot of our people don't like to acknowledge is we got to have both those conversations.
Yep.
And honestly, I have to be very concerned about my sons or nephews. If I'm going to Chicago to, see a Bulls game, I got to be concerned because they're not from there. All right. And we have no problem attacking us, all right. We have no problem attacking us. We know this to be true. So we don't regard each other in that way, which is another point of accountability. We always talk about this Hotepery, pro-black, but we don't regard each other. We don't regard each other in that way. We don't treat each other in that way. So we have to acknowledge those realities are true. Now, if we change that, it's like the first thing you need to change. If you and I want to change the situation, the first thing we got to change is our thinking.
Right here.
I can't change the thinking of everybody else, how they view me. I got to change how I view self. I got to move a certain way in that confidence of what I have determined in my mind. We need to also determine that as a group, because we over here expecting, like the whole thing with reparations. That's my biggest argument. You say there's systemic and institutional racism, anti-black racism. You say that, that you believe that a lot of the population carries these inherent racial biases against us, including some of ourselves. Give you that. These people even say that the government is plotting against black people. So you think it is rational to go ask the same government, give us reparations. And to me, it's a matter of maybe I'm, read one Doom comic too many, but it seems like to me, we begging. Sir, we really need some reparations, sir. If we could get that, oh Lord, we'd be saved. Singing a spiritual hymn. If we gonna shuck and jive, I don't believe in shucking and jiving. I believe that we have the ability to do for ourselves if we value each other. And for everybody who say we don't, again, our ancestors literally walked out of slavery, all right, in 1865, some a little bit later, as we know. Our ancestors literally walked out and built communities together. All right. They did not have the education where we have Black PhDs, Black lawyers, Black doctors. We have everything, everything you can imagine in our community. But you want to sit here and listen to some liberal goobie that we can't do for ourselves. We waiting on an imaginary check that's never going to come. There's Black people arguing right now on Twitter. You have the Pan-Africans and the ADOS people arguing about who should get reparations. Should Blacks who just got over here from Africa get it? Should Caribbean Blacks get it? I'm like, y'all arguing over fantasy money.
Yeah.
You know, that's like playing, y'all arguing over a fantasy. We need to operate in what we know we have and operate together, you know, in our respective communities, because it's kind of impossible for some, you know, real Black movement. You know, we got Blacks in Baltimore, Chicago, and Detroit, and LA. So in each of our communities, we build, we share it with each other, ideas that have worked, and we build our communities, if that's what we're going to do. But I'm going to say this. I don't think that's going to happen. Let me tell you why. What I believe, and this is me, how should I say, forecasting. I don't want to use the word prophesying.
Prognosticate.
We're going to forecast a little bit here, forecast the weather. Ultimately, that will not happen because African Americans, I'm going to put some out there that people don't like to talk about at parties, but African Americans who can do better leave the hood and ain't going back. Let's be real.
I have a conversation with my brother about that. To my brother,
even if we're going to other communities, like we have a community in South Chicagoland, South Suburbs, Flossmoor, and Homewood. They're both predominantly African American suburbs. They don't have 50 shootings a weekend.
Neither where I live at.
Right, exactly. I'm just saying.
And it's 70% Black.
Right. And the income level is higher there. The people who live in those communities.
Education is higher.
They have a great school system.
Exactly.
Right? And how you convince that person, well, you need to go back to the hood? Not happening. You can't convince me of it. You know? I mean, honestly, let's just be real, you know?
But that's my situation. That's like, people always say, "Oh, well, crime can happen anywhere." You're absolutely right, but it just doesn't happen as frequently where I live at, and that's why I'm here. I can leave my door unlocked all night, and ain't nobody coming in. I can leave a bike on my lawn, and ain't nobody gonna take it.
Wow.
Unfortunately, the only deaths that happen in my neighborhood is people die naturally. That's it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm be real. I hear that excuse all the time too. And let me be upfront, people. We're about to end this because Jonathan and I both have to. You know, this was spur of the moment. We got things to do. But I'm gonna say that I hear a lot of Black people when I say, "Hey, man, move." No, man, crime happened out there too. Yes, you're right. Crime happens everywhere, but not at the consistency that it's happening there. You know, we don't have 7-year-olds getting shot because this gangbanger wants to get at that gangbanger. He don't care that his daughter's in the car. All right. We don't have that happening. And I'm happy that we don't, you know, and I'll be frank. Let's be real. Not only do we move away from those communities, we don't particularly like them people moving with us. Everybody got upset with Trump. He said that.
Now you hit it. They may be mad at you for saying that.
Every Black person lives in the suburbs right now who chose to move to them. I want you to be honest with yourself. All right.
They'll never admit it. There's only a handful of us to admit it that we don't want that.
They won't admit it. It's like what Jack said in the movie, type of thing you don't like to talk about at parties. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. Right. Bottom line is if African Americans who live in the suburbs are honest, we know when your cousins are coming, Joe, Jonathan, that we don't want your cousins coming out to the neighborhood. You know, we're like, oh Lord, here they come. All right, we ain't gonna admit that we say that, but we do. We ain't gonna admit if we see them out here and they happen to be shopping. You know, dude got his pants all, booty all out. You know, you can see his underwear.
They done found us. They done found where we at.
Yep. And you say, oh Lord, they came from out here. They're here now. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure that, there's some young men that try that stuff out here too with the short pants, with the booty out. But my point is, though, we know when we're seeing people that aren't from our community, and we know that we're not trying to live around that. Now, if you want to come out here and act right, we good.
Yeah.
But if you want to come out and bring that bull junk, you want to come out and keep it 100, we're like, no, y'all can stay right where you at.
Right.
Right. And if we had, and I'm sorry, y'all can get mad at me all day.
Chris Rock said it though.
It's true. Yeah, Chris Rock said it was true. It's Chris Rock. They got mad at him for saying it. Because Chris Rock, when he said the war between black people and they got to go, all right, because there's a lot of black people trapped in the hood right now, stuck with your cousins who don't want to act right. Most of the people in the hood would do fine moving out to the suburbs. Some of them won't refuse to do so. Some of them can't financially, but where they're at, they got to worry about somebody kicking in their door, trying to jack their car, trying to rape their daughter, trying to push poison into their kids. They got to worry about all that. And at a certain point, you're not going to want to do that. You're like, if I can afford to leave this, I'm going to. And I'm not going to try to recreate this nowhere else. I'm trying to do better. Ain't nothing wrong with that. We are the only group that gets shamed to want to do better. Oh, you just want to lead the hood? Yes, I do. I love it when the rappers talk about, cuz I didn't want to lead the hood, man. You should. Right? I mean, Nipsey Hussle is a prime example. I admire Nipsey Hussle. I admire what he was doing for the community, but he stayed in the community. All right. And there's always going to be jealous people. That you can do all you can do for a neighborhood and all you can do for your people, but there's going to be people that are not going to like you for it. And he is an example of that happening. There's a reason. What's that? Chief Keef, the BD rapper from O Block in Chicago. There's a reason he don't live on O Block no more. He don't even live in Chicago no more. All right. So I'm gonna tell all y'all people that say this. I want you to listen to your favorite rapper and ask him where he lived. All right, because he might be talking that gangster stuff, but I bet you he don't live on the block no more. All right, he might come back to the block every now and then with security, but he don't live on the block no more.
Right.
There's a reason he don't. But you want to convince me and Jonathan here that we supposed to, go back to the hood, sir, help there. No, man, not gonna do it. Not gonna happen.
Right.
But anyway, Jonathan, I'm gonna go ahead and let you close this out. Tell us about what you got going on your page. All right. And we'll be back next week to talk in detail. That's if I don't get canceled for telling black folk admitting something that we don't like to admit. Right. Go ahead, Jonathan.
So I have a podcast with a brother named Tamuk Scruggs. He's a multi-felon, got out, did his thing. He's a journeyman, skilled trades, $43 an hour. Wrote a book. You've effed up. Now what? I have 3 interviews with him, and he's taking the hood side and got some education, got some understanding, helping out in the community, and really trying to do some things to help African-American, particularly men in the city, look at something other than a basketball or entertainment, other avenues to help in the community. We don't need no more basketball players, football players, or entertainers. We no more rappers, especially no 50-year-old rappers. We 50-year-old rappers, sit down somewhere.
Hey, man, I still want to do my album.
No. But a hobby is one thing. Something you like to do because music is enjoyment. That's not what we're talking about. You're trying to make it as a 50-year-old rapper, go sit down somewhere.
So you're trying to tell me I can't blow up?
No, you're going to fail. Your failure, you're not going to be any good. Yeah, I'm killing dreams. So we talk about those kinds. I'm killing dreams, Rich. I'm killing dreams. I'm a dream killer.
Oh, man.
We need some real stuff, some real things that people can do in the community. Business is all that. So we talk about that with that brother, man. He has a perspective that kind of tempered me a little bit and brought up another perspective. He comes humbly. He's not coming. He understands black flight. So he gets it. He's like, how do we bridge our resources? How do we help each other? And I'm all right with that. I'm okay with that.
Well, I want to tell the brother we want to have him on just to do like a 30-minute interview with him. Let him promote his book and talk with him. I like connecting with brothers. I got some very good friends. One of my very good friends, J.L. Harris, is a felon, but he does so much work with the community. He does work with people in reentry. He's been recently to Cook County Jail, talking to some of the most, dangerous people in the city of Chicago, basically. And him and his partner, Victor Woods, they go in and they do a lot of good work. So, and it goes to show, just because you committed a felony, you made a mistake in life, you made a bad choice, you own that choice, and you choose to do better. These are examples of Black men doing what we're talking about.
Right.
Choosing to do better.
Taking accountability.
That I can't do better because of this system.
Exactly.
Brother come out of prison being successful. That means you can too.
Right.
You just got to make some choices. And those choices sometimes require a little bit of hard work.
Yeah.
All right, brother.
All right, man.
All right. If I'm still around, if I'm having a chance of putting the Black people's secret out that we don't like to live around Jonathan's cousins.
All right, bro. I got to get out of here.
All right, man. Let me go ahead and get to our branding, man, and get us up out of here. Where's our exit, man? I'm over here. I need a producer. All right, man.
For real.
I'm gonna holler at you, brother.
All right, man.